And if you want a homework word, go home and look up a janissary, because these children are in fact a modern-day janissary. They look like us, they may talk like us, but they will not be us because they do not hold the same principles that we do. Now let me talk about Tennessee's first transition initiative. This is a movement to sustainable development through permaculture. Permaculture is a global movement. They have a magazine. They are worldwide. And they're headquartered in Australia and England. And their philosophy is quite applicable to what we're talking about in sustainable development. Now, let me go on and talk about what they have done. Because the elected officials of Hole and Wall in Lewis County, Tennessee, have actually signed a proclamation. And I hope that Dodie passes these around for everybody to get a copy of. Because it is quite amazing to me that the elected official of any community in this country would write and sign such a proclamation. And that is the reason I selected this, because there's many transition communities across this globe. Their forms of how they became a transition community are on the internet. All you have to do is go look at it. And they actually submitted a request, 4 or 5 pages detailing what kind of county they resided in, to the organization in order to be certified. Now here's what the elected officials said. They said the emphasis of local sustainability in every sector of society can only occur as individuals commit themselves to exemplifying those practices in their personal lives and inspiring others to do the same. Well, I mean, this is a pretty big effort, because the very first thing that they did was to create a time dollar system. This goes by various names. Now, as the dollar continues to lose its value, this will be floated at the local level in order to save the wealth that you have accumulated in the fiat currency we call the U.S. dollar. And like I say, it goes by many names: complementary currency, community currency, local currency. You can look up any one of these. There's many of these going on currently. What they did in Hole and Wall was the Chamber of Commerce came together and they issued a local currency, and for 3 months the merchants agreed to accept it. One merchant would issue U.S. currency as exchange and another wouldn't, so they went back to the drawing board to try to figure out how to make it compatible and work. Now, if you're as old as I am, perhaps you grew up in and around the coal industry or steel industry as I did, and I remember script. And I remember Tennessee Ernie Ford's song that said, "Lord, you load 16 tons, what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt? St. Peter, don't call me, because I got to stay right here. I can't go anywhere because everything I own belongs to that company store. And I can't go outside the company store to spend it." These people couldn't go in the next town and spend their local script. This is something that will enslave them to that system, just as the script did in the coal mining and steel industry years ago. It is not something that we want to do. And I gave Dodie a copy of, electronically, a Colorado law. It's not a law. It was introduced in Colorado, has yet to pass, that would allow gold and silver to work in conjunction with U.S. currency. And I understand from talking to some people on this trip that several states have already passed similar legislation. So as soon as we get a few states that do this and make gold and silver back like it should be as a currency, and by the way, this thing establishes a system where you could use a debit card on gold and silver just like you do in U.S. currency, and it would be just as convenient. So there's no reason not to do this. One of the better aspects of this particular law that I like is that your FICA and other withdrawing or withholding taxes could be, on your option, U.S. currency. So you want to give them back what they're paying you in, worthless U.S. currency. That would be wonderful as far as I can tell. Now here's the transition celebration, the video of their celebration, and this was filmed in a renovated store downtown Hole and Wall. I think they have one red light. And in this video, you're going to hear the vice mayor, a very young man. He's going to stand up and say, "We're going green. We're going to move towards sustainable development. We came to a consensus. We want to be proactive. We're just as proud as we can be." And then you're going to hear an old school teacher, or a school teacher, used to be a cheerleader, and she said, when they told me what this is all about, I got on board. And I'm here to tell you, we're going to do away with those things that don't work, and we're going to accept this new criteria. So with that, let's see what she had to say. Did you catch the phrase, care of the earth's people? Well, I don't think that that was a slip of the tongue. I really think that she intended to say that, and she meant every word of it. But what she didn't say is far more important than what she did say. It's one of those sins of omission, is the way I look at it. And I went out to the website, their website. This is the Permaculture Research Institute's website, and I found the principles that she was talking about. And she referenced these first two, care of the earth's people. That's just exactly as she said it. What she didn't say was that we have to accept limits to population and consumption. That is a prime target of Agenda 21. Next, that humanity belongs to the earth, our ecosystem, and Gaia. That's a reference, a religious reference to Mother Earth. The problem is not humanity. The problem is our culture, our growth, and how we make a living. The old worldview, this is what, you remember she said, we got to do away with everything that didn't work? Well, this is that old worldview that didn't work. And it says that 2,000 years ago, our ancestors created a worldview that taught that humanity is flawed, we are sinners, and the earth is a proving ground to see whether we are worthy to go to a better place when we die. Now that's what she says doesn't work. Well, what else? What else did that old worldview teach? It taught that we have unalienable rights from our Creator, the only system that's ever spoken that out loud and made it an affirmative part of their documentation in the beginning, and that this has produced liberty and freedom, and we are an example of the most productive society in the history of mankind. Well, what are her new set of ethics? Well, they say all profit, losses, and fines are shared equally. Decisions are made by consensus. Private property leads to hoarding and is a disincentive to sharing, and it should be eliminated. All non-household assets should also be communal or part of the commons. These ethics translate into a making and living in a way that does not participate in the destruction of Mother Earth.
It's communism. This is the most giving system ever.
So now let me pick up on social health and try to give you some concept of what social health and sustainability would mean. Now this is a speech from Director Bosworth in the year 2003. He was at the time director of the USDA in the federal government. And this is a verbatim of his speech, and I'll just pull up part of it. Now, in this part, he was talking about the requirement that all federal agencies, and this is, after all, 2003 now, several years ago, are required to publish sustainability reports on a yearly basis and update them. And if they're not moving towards their target of sustainability, they have to tweak those regulations and make them more stringent in order to move quicker towards that target. He said that, in other words, sustainability depends on how social, economic, and environmental components interrelate, and that is so important that it has learned its own name. You want to look up something, look up triple bottom line in parentheses. Then put in Virginia. Then put in PPT for PowerPoint presentation. And you will see something similar to what you're about to see. Now this is a PowerPoint presentation from Japan dealing with the triple bottom line. We have a triangle: economy, society, and the environment. Rising out of that is the triple bottom line, which is happiness. So now it says that to be sustainable, a society must satisfy the requirements of the triple bottom line. However, that alone is not sufficient. The feelings of people living in society are also important. Even if the triple bottom line requirements are satisfied, the society is not sustainable if you feel unhappy. Therefore, we define a sustainable society as one that satisfies the triple bottom line requirements and makes you feel happy. Now, the question is, what would make you feel happy? And this goes into great detail about talking about what makes you feel happy. It is a universal health care system. And this slideshow goes through each one of these subjects in this column. And this one happens to be health care. GSF. GSF. Gross Social Feel-Good Index. Now let me show you how it's couched in a different manner and you wouldn't recognize it. Because in the Washington County, Virginia Comprehensive Plan of 2002, Appendix C, Survey Instruments, is a feel-good survey.
No.
Go read it.
Oh, come on now.
Ask all those similar questions about do you appreciate your community and all. It goes through all the same kind of stuff. It's just how it's couched and how it's presented to you. Remember, the planner has been certified in all this. He knows exactly which words that you'll be comfortable with.
Yep.
Agreed. No concept.
So now let's talk about land use planning and greening development. And your comprehensive plan usually begins with land use planning and gets into a great deal more before it's all over with. But right now we want to talk also about the Biodiversity Treaty. That is one of 3 treaties in Agenda 21. Now this is a slideshow presentation created by the EPA Region 4 out of Atlanta. This is old information. This was done a number of years ago. This slideshow and related information are on the University of Florida's website. And it talks about the Southeast Ecological Framework. And they map all of the southeastern states. They did not include Virginia.
What?
Don't know.
Why?
It may have that EPA 4 does not cover Virginia. It's probably in another area. Now, I'm just going to be right up front about what this thing says. The Biodiversity Treaty calls for 50% of the continental United States to be set aside for animals, 10% buffer zone, and 40% remaining landmass for animals. And you'll see that as we go through this presentation from the federal government. Now, the agencies that were involved in mapping this and participating in this ecological framework are listed right here. University of Florida also participated, as well as the Department of Transportation. Now, here is this slideshow's explanation of what this is all about. We have one eco hub on one side and an eco hub on the other side. These are generally 5,000 acres or larger, generally. That's just a very rough rule of thumb. And in between this, we have an interconnecting corridor that ties one hub to the other. And we want to, by the way, we're going to reintroduce all predator animals that were here prior to European man coming. So all bears, wolves, and we're going to remove all the invasive species that man brought with him.
Good luck.
Gonna get those starlings out of here?
That's the target. That's all I'm telling you. All right, now the point is that we want a bear or a wolf to be able to move from this hub through that interconnecting corridor, never seeing a human being or seeing anything created by man, in order to get to this hub. Now the purpose is to ensure that he does not intermate and his gene pool is degraded over a 1,000-year period. Now that's the logic behind it. So now, let's look at some other slides. Now if you go out to the Virginia Outdoor Plan 2007, Chapter 4, page 47, for those people taking notes. This slideshow, by the way, is for Charles County, Maryland. It was created by the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Highway Administration. Now when you go out to the Outdoor Plan for Virginia, look on that page, you'll see that graphics right there. And you'll read the description that we're about to go through in this slideshow. Now, of course, the hubs anchor the system, then the interconnecting corridor ties it together. Then we have smaller areas may not be attached. That's why I said we could have maybe a 2-acre hub that's not attached to anything. Just depends on what the scientist thinks is appropriate, if you want to call them scientists. Then we have lands. Whose land's involved in this? Well, it's public, private, and non-profit. How big is it? Well, it's statewide, regional, and community. And it's going to include urban, suburban, rural, and wild. Now, I don't know any parcel of property that's not included in that definition. Now, we're going to apply that graphics to an aerial photograph in this next slide. Whoop, no, we're not. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Sorry about it. Well, you can't be perfect. All right, here's the core areas, and here there's the definition. Core areas contain fully functional natural ecosystems and provide high-quality habitat for native plants and animals. Doesn't say anything about human beings. Then we have a buffer zone that goes around it. All right. Then we have the interconnecting corridors. And notice the corridors link areas together and allow animal movement and seed and pollen transfer between them. All right, now here's the aerial photograph, and you get an idea about what this is all about. The corridor link core areas together and allow animal movement and seed and pollen transfer between them. All right, now here's another one. This is the interconnecting corridor. It is pretty wide, and it says linear features linking core areas wind through human-dominated land like agriculture or development, allowing animal seed, pollen, and movement between the core areas. I don't know how to make it any plainer than that. Now this is what Charles County, Maryland would look like at the end of all of this.